My name is Adedeji Ayokunmi Isaac, 300 level student of JPTS Institute of Management, Science and Technology in collaboration with South American University, USA, Global Wealth System, Togo, Pan American College, California. I will be presenting a brief seminar paper on the theme altitude. What is altitude? Altitude, as well as height, is a distance measurement, usually in the vertical or up direction, between a reference datum and a point or object. Altitude can also be the vertical elevation of an object above a surface, that is, the sea level or the plant or the land level of a plant or a natural satellite. That means the distance between a plant and the land level, or distance between the sea level and any satellite, maybe a star or the moon. That is what we call altitude. Altitude can be measured, and there is a tool, or let me say there's an object that is used in measuring altitude. The object is called altimeter. Altimeter, Altimeter, is the object that is used for measuring altitude, and the process of measurement of altitude is called altimetry, while bathymetry is the measurement of depth underwater. Now, the most common unit for altimeter calibration worldwide is called the hectopascals. The sign is written as small letter H, capital letter P, and small letter A. That is the most common unit for measuring altitude. Now, every human being that is living above 500 feet or higher might increase the lifespan. 500 feet altitude might increase the lifespan. That means living at high altitude reduce the risk of dying from heart disease. So the altitude of human that is living above 500 feet that means they will have a longer lifespan. Because the oxygen molecules are further apart, because there is less pressure to push them together. So living at high altitude will reduce the risk of dying from any heart disease. There are different types of altitude. We have indicated altitude, we have the pressure altitude, we have the density altitude, we have the true altitude. The indicated altitude, this is the altitude you read directly off your altimeter. That means the tool that is used in measuring altitude. So the altitude that you can read directly from your altimeter is called the indicated altitude. We have the pressure altitude. The pressure, like if your altimeter is set to 29.92, you are flying at standard altitude. That is the standard altitude. This is the altitude of aircraft above the standard datum plane. Pressure altitude is the standard altitude in which an aircraft should fly at in a standard temperature. That means if you have a standard and a good temperature, that means and you are flying at 29.92, that is the standard altitude you are flying in a standard temperature. Then number 3, we have the density altitude. Density altitude, this is the corrected pressure altitude for non-standard temperature. So that means if the temperature is not standard enough, that means you have to correct your altitude. Like you have to correct the radar or the altimeter to a standard one, because you won't be able to fly higher like you fly during the pressure altitude. During density altitude, when the weather is too hot, you tend to fly a little bit lower, because when the weather is hot, when the air is hot, there will be less air. There won't be much air when you are flying, and the air won't raise the plane. But when the weather is cold, the air is much, and it will be able to lift the plane very well. So during density altitude, when there is hot heat, when there is hot air, you don't fly higher, because flying at that standard altitude, it means that the plane will be overworking. It will be as if the plane has fly more than where it's supposed to be during the density altitude. So during hot days, during hot weathers, the pilot flying the plane should be very, very careful not to fly more than what it's supposed to fly. So density altitude, it means that you correct your pressure altitude for a non-standard temperature when the weather is hot to make it normal. Then number 4, we have the true altitude. True altitude, this is the vertical distance of your plane above the sea level. The vertical distance of the plane above the sea level. It is expressed as feet MSL. Feet MSL means feet above mean sea level. The feet above mean sea level. Then we have the absolute altitude. This is the distance measurement of your airplane above the ground. The distance measurement of the airplane above the ground is the absolute altitude. That means this change constantly, and it is expressed as feet AGL. The feet AGL means feet above ground level. That is the absolute altitude. So the measurement of the distance between the airplane and the ground is what we call the absolute altitude. Then lastly, it is not really common, but lastly there is what we call GPS altitude. GPS altitude is the altitude above WGS 84. WGS 84 means World Geodetic System in 1984. This is just a backup altitude that you can read from your GPS. So in this, your GPS altitude reading won't match every other altitude. So this one is just in case there's any emergency that you need to use the GPS for. That is why we added the GPS altitude. So GPS altitude is the World Geodetic System in 1984, which is a datum featuring coordinates that changes with time. That is calculated by your GPS. It is not the same as the MSL and other datums. So in this GPS altitude, you read your altitude from your GPS in case of any emergency that you need to use the GPS for. So that is the last type of altitude. Thank you.